Hello everyone and welcome to the Property Hustler Show. My name is Andrew and today Ping and I are joined by a very special guest, Danielle Chiasson, who is an investor. She is a public speaker as well as a real estate educator. So Danielle, really great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here. My partner said to me about going into property management. I'm like, that's a hard no. And he's like, well, why? No, not doing it because it's just going to deplete your mental broadband to be able to do anything else. It's like a hard business.
Yeah.
There's a high turnover. You're never making anybody happy because you're trying to keep the tenant happy and the landlord happy. And there's never you can't. It's impossible
Because they're going against each other. Right?
100%. And then it's like, but you can never find a happy resolution because they just don't give on either side. Like it's hard. It's hard. So kudos to you guys.
You become a counselor when you do this.
I'm telling you, it is not like, in your staff, there's big turnover. It's really hard. It's really hard mentally on people.
Our model changed a lot because initially, very soon, like right after we got in, we realized that is the case, right? So we started building a team so that we're not the person who's being stuck in between. We just need to kind of decide. And sometimes we do need to trim out the landlord clients.
Yeah.
And then after that, we started taking a bit of a consultation where when people come to us, right, if we don't feel like you're qualified to be our clients or there's no long-term business relationship, we just offer consultation.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a lead gen for us in the property management segment.
Well, and I think that's brilliant because you're 100% right. I mean, and then how many landlords are just tired of doing it? They're like, okay, yeah, well, let's just partner together and do a JV or whatever, right? And so there's massive opportunity there. I get that, but not for me.
It's a long road. Like honestly, if we hadn't started it as young as we did, there's no way we would have had the energy to do it. Like in retrospect, well, actually, you know what? It's kind of like building a race mountain. One client at a time, and it becomes very rigid. Like it's hard to blow it away or not topple it or knock it down. Right? There's a lot of hard work, but now we haven't started growing. We haven't been growing it for a very long time because the idea now is we wanted to double the portfolio. We just help each one of those landlords buy another property, right? And there you go. You double your portfolio, double your infrastructure.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of people. And this is where the coaching came in with the philosophies. A lot of people get into landlording with the wrong expectation, and they go into real estate investing. When you go to the real estate seminars, everybody's like rah rah rah, let's do it, and then no one ever talks about they say this dream of okay, how hard is it for you to sit in Tahiti with a phone and then answer a maintenance request and just tell, hey, call your contractor to go there? Do you think that's hard? Is that hard? Can you do it? Can you do it? Can you do it? And then everybody's just like, yeah, I can do it. And then they realize that now they're also hugging toilets in the evening instead of visiting their family. They have a 9 to 5 plus this property management after hours job because the budget didn't allow it, or it's just
property I'm telling you, no. I'll just go to real estate events and connect with landlords that way. I'm happy that way. It's
we agree with you. That's why we started Property Hustlers channel. And then we realized that the lead gen from here, even though it's not as warm as property management because you get to talk to people right away, right? But the reach is way bigger. So
100%.
Sometimes people talk about if your top of the funnel is not big enough, your business is going to be small, right? Because the reach is not there.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think it's great what you guys are doing. Like I said, I was surprised that I'm like, who are they? I don't know. How was I in Hamilton for so long and I don't know who these guys are? So
we just haven't been showing our faces.
Well, that's changing. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And you guys got a great setup.
It does the job. Actually, it's funny because people either come here and they think, wow, this place looks great, or some people are just like, it's a really ramshack,
Like that, it's all perception, right?
That's the thing. I think people
What do you have? Oh, you think it's ramshack? What do you have? I don't know.
That's true. Yeah. They have a stack of books in the basement holding the camera.
Right. Exactly.
When I was looking up your content, I was actually, I enjoy it, right? And you actually had a few things in your social media that I thought was very relatable, and especially with the quotes. So you obviously take a very inspirational approach, more of a motivational approach to your social media.
Mindset,
yeah.
That's a hard thing to teach. I think largely because when people come to you and say, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and you start talking about mindset, I didn't come here to learn mindset. I came here to learn how to make money.
Yeah.
Right? And people have the wrong idea about it, not the byproduct approach.
But at the end of the day, though, the language you use will attract your tribe. So if somebody comes to me and they want to know about a specific strategy or way of doing things, I can talk to them about that. But very quickly, I start talking about mindset because I can tell right away where their blocks are. And it's not with the strategy, it's with them. It's always with them, right? So when it comes to coaching, you sell them what they want and give them what they need. And they don't even notice we're talking about mindset when I'm talking.
That's actually right.
Are you able to walk us through? Let's say if I come to you and I say, Danielle, I wanted to get into real estate investing. I have this goal. How do I actually achieve that? What would be the very first couple of things that you
Oh
you
gosh.
teach
Well,
me.
when I'm doing an intake call and I'm looking at a client, it's like, okay, well, where are you at now? Do you have a 9 to 5 job? How many kids do you have? Like, what is your obligations at home? Like, because time is a resource people don't think of. Time's a big one. So I have a course called Reverse Engineering Real Estate, and I'm building a program around it now. Reverse engineering, being on stage. I get off stage, you know how it is. People come and they talk to you and they just want to like run things by you or whatever. It's like, hey, I got this problem. Can I run it by you? Can I pick your brain? And I started seeing a pattern like, hey, with all these people who have problems, what is the pattern? And the biggest pattern that I see is that they got into the wrong strategy based on their situation and their goals and their resources, their knowledge. Like everything just doesn't line up. And so reverse engineering real estate. See, I go on stage. Back then I was going on stage talking about flipping, dealing with contractors, how to analyze properties, walking through properties and all of that. And then we go through all of that. And then I got 130 people in the audience. They go, yeah, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get some capital and then that'll help me buy my first property or whatever. Right. And so then they start chasing that. But I had a woman come to me 9 to 5 downtown Toronto, chase that flipping dream to boost some capital into her wallet, got a property in St. Catharines, which was a duplex conversion. So her realtor said, yep, we'll get you this. It's great. Numbers are great. You'll be able to burr that out. No problem. It'll be cash flowing and whatever. You just got to hire the contractor and then get him set up. And when is she going to go and manage that contractor? She's got no construction background, hires a contractor, has no idea how to manage him, doesn't know about an independent contractor agreement. And then, so she hires a contractor because like you said, it's like, oh, I just got to make a phone call and send the contractor there, right? Yeah, no, you got to actually manage the contractor and make sure he's doing what he's saying. So he just kept saying, I need more money for more material. And so she kept paying him. She was about $60K overpaid the work he had done. And he was holding her hostage saying, if you don't give me any more, I'm not coming back because like, I need more material. So I ended up having a consultation with her and help her through that. But at the end of the day, like I can't as a speaker on stage, even as a keynote with 60, 90 minutes, I can't give you enough to tell you how to do it and how to manage it and everything that you need to know, right?
Right.
And don't chase the shiny object. I'm talking about strategy, but that doesn't mean it's a good fit for you, right? So you have to look at your 9 to 5. She works downtown Toronto. So if she does go to check on her property, she's going in the evening or weekends and there's no contractor there. So she didn't have a partner, no boots on the ground. So reverse engineering real estate is all about identifying the top 2 strategies that are a good fit for you based on your goals, your resources, and your knowledge and your time, right? And then set yourself up for success, essentially, right?
That kind of mindset is really hard for people to change because we talk about like especially the way of thinking. Sometimes it can take just a couple of seconds or a life changing moment for them to decide to prioritize something else, right? But sometimes people come to us and they say, "Hey, listen, I want to be building wealth in a shorter period of time," and I think the hardest part is to really kind of get them to understand why they're doing that and the amount of stress and everything that's going to come along with. What I'm trying to say is that when people have or they made up their mind, it is really difficult to sometimes like guide them through into the proper.
No, I had somebody else wanted to do a flip, asked me to take a look at it. I was mentoring these 2 guys. I looked at it. They said, "Can you come and meet us with our realtor here in Hamilton, just down the street, actually?" Met with the realtor. We went for breakfast. I knew the realtor. I'm also licensed, so I have to be careful. And so, but I knew the realtor and I'm like, look, they asked me for my opinion. I'm just going to give my opinion. What they do is up to them, right? And so in front of the realtor, I said, I wouldn't do it. Like I flip and I wouldn't do it. I would not do this deal. It's a lien deal. The numbers that the realtor was giving are not numbers that I was in alignment with. And then at the end of the day, I told them, the guys, I said, you shouldn't be doing this, but they wanted to. And I said, some people need to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that's fine. I'll be here when you need me on the back end. And sure enough.
But that's actually a very interesting point because I think a lot of people don't always the version of what you think is best for them, right? Because sometimes people just want help doing whatever they want to do, whether it's right or wrong. It's really a little more subjective to them. I have this one client. He bought a property and he has the potential to wholesale it off right away, or not wholesale it. He bought a property, closed on it, but he got it at such a good price off market that he could potentially sell it to a more advanced house flipper and make like $40K on the spread. Right?
All day long.
Really great opportunity.
You should take it right away.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I told him, and it's like, you should take this. Like, yeah, but my funnel of deals has been so thin lately that I feel that I need to take on this project and actually house flip it for content, for this, for that, and the other. And I said, like, what are you going to make? So we crunched the numbers, and for doing the whole project, spending about $150,000 on renovations, he will stand to make $55,000 to $60,000 on the low, to $100,000 on the high. But now you're risking that much more. So really, what you're fighting for is anywhere from $15,000 more for all the effort and time to maybe $60,000 more, right? Like potentially. But the point is that it's the idea of money in your pocket now is more valuable than money in your pocket later, right? And
what he's not realizing is that, okay, once we offload this one, then maybe I can pick up 2 more and make 40K on those 2 more. Instead of making potentially 55 to 100, he could be making 120 or more.
Yeah.
Right. And so
opportunity cost.
Yeah. He doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. So, but they got to listen, I'm telling you, especially in a crazy economic environment that we're in right now, if he doesn't realize it, he has to learn the hard way. And so I just honor that.
Yeah. By the way, I appreciate you saying that because sometimes we know what is best for this specific person, for that specific circumstance, because we've been through this journey long enough to know that if I were you and if I were to do that over again, this is what I would do. But sometimes it's hard to change that. And I agree with you. Sometimes you do have to let people learn the hard way. Yeah. And then so that they can at least have that kind of experience to come to the same conclusion later on.
100%.
Yeah.
But you know what? They still, even though they don't take the advice, I respect that. I mean, it's sometimes they got to learn the hard way, but at least there's that seed that's been planted. They're aware of it. And the lesson is still there to learn that they'll learn. Otherwise, they might just, if we're not there to tell them that, they're going to go and wholesale it and maybe not ever realize that that's what I should have done and grow from it. So what happens, they go through and they go, oh crap, I had an opportunity, maybe I should have, they move on. But then the next time that shows up, because there wasn't that reinforcement, it's not driven in their psyche enough. And so that shows up. They're like, no, I need this for content, this and that. And then they do the same mistake. I mean, so even though they still have to go through and make that mistake, typically they only need to do it once as opposed to doing it 4 or 5 times to actually learn, right? So we're still doing our job.
Yeah, no kind of learning like the School of Hard Knocks, right?
Yeah, totally.
But actually, that brings me to a question, which is when you're teaching somebody, in my mind, I always divide it into 2 types of teaching. Teaching them how to reach their goal is one thing. Teaching them how to do what they want to do is another thing, because it has nothing to do with them reaching their goal. If they say, I want to do this, and they think it's going to lead them to the goal, and they're stubborn, they want to do this, would you still help them do that, right? And sometimes people just want to problem solve this problem, and they're not able to look further ahead to, does this solving this problem actually get me to my goal? So they just want you to teach them there. Do you find that you can help people sometimes do this, even though you know that it's not going to help them get to their goal?
No, we have a broad conversation with the whole thing so that they can make a decision with their eyes wide open, right? So sometimes when you get narrow focused on a certain thing, you can't see beyond that because you're in your own box. It's easy for us on the outside looking in, super easy. Like people are like, oh my God, you're so smart. No, I'm just not in it. Like, so I don't have all
objective.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I don't have all of the, all of the mess of the emotions and everything else clouding my judgment, right? And so it's just super clear and easier for me to see. You pair that up with the experience and knowledge. It's like super easy. At the end of the day, when somebody's talking, I just say, well, there's this, there's that, there's that. We just look at it broadly and then have you considered this and have you considered that? But as a coach, you want to make sure that you're asking them questions so that they get there on their own, because if you're dictating, they're not learning. So if you think about being in a university auditorium and somebody's at the front of the room and they're just dictating, you're not retaining very much because you're actually not engaging your brain. You're just engaging your ears. So when you're telling them as a coach or as a consultant, what about this? How about that? Have you considered this? Did you forget about what is your goals? Like, did you forget about that? Did you consider that? And so when you give them those, you can guide them to where they need to go. But if you can engage them to think for themselves, that's what makes the difference between make a good and a great coach. I don't know. I don't want
to. But here's the thing though, like I think what you say is right. Like the being able to look at things from the outside the box, right? And then get them to align with their original goal. I think that is the most critical point. Being a coach, being a great coach, to be honest. There's a lot of coaches out there, their intention is to make money.
Yeah.
Right? They go out there, I don't care what you need to learn or whether or not you're getting closer to your goal. As long as you pay me, I can teach you anything.
Yeah.
But that's the difference, I think, and this is what we're talking about. The difference between people who are just coaches and people who do real estate. I mean, we talked about people who are strictly teachers. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the problem is that people who are strictly teachers, I find that is their lifeline. You know, the coaching is their revenue stream, and that's it. But people who are doing real estate, actually doing what they're teaching, right, practicing what they preach, so to speak, oftentimes will also have that revenue stream, right? And it makes
the problem, though, Andrew, with that is that the caveat is there's pros and cons to both sides. And actually, that's just the yin and yang in life. It's black and white, night and day, sun and moon. I mean, I could go all day long. There has to be a yes and a no and a good and evil. They're on both sides. So there's pros and cons to everything. So when you have somebody who is coaching that is also doing the real estate business, are they going to give you the attention that you need? Are they going to be there available for you? Are they going to be like in and out? Are they distracted because they got problems in their own business? Because God only knows we've got problems in our real estate business. It's not that easy, folks. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you want to make sure that you have somebody that's going to give you that attention and give you what you need and meet your needs, versus somebody who's, maybe their intention is well, but they want to coach, but they're not there for you. So like, you know, somebody's teaching, maybe they have a lot of experience and now they're backing off and they just want to spend more time teaching because that's their passion. Like, why are they only teaching and not involved in real estate? Maybe they have partners.
Well, okay. Yeah. No, and that makes sense. I'm not saying that they need to be boots on the ground, right? But I am thinking that, at least from where I'm coming from, my expectation would be that I hope they've done or have some more involved perspective as to what it is they're telling me to do, right? Because, and I think maybe I know I feel a little bit bitter about this kind of stuff because so many times I've gone to people and I've paid them good money, and then I find out that they really don't do the things that they're trying to teach me to do. And that's also when I find out that, okay, I actually have done more and I'm more established than this person. It's just this person looks really great on camera and I never put effort into it. And so I feel like, yes, I do have a bit of a bitter tone to it. I think that's what a lot of people look for too. They look for some credibility. They want somebody to have walked the walk if they're going to talk the talk. They don't have to be doing it right now, because you're right. How are you going to give the time to the student if you're busy doing real estate? But to at least have done it.
Right.
You know, as opposed to just looking like.
And I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying there's pros and cons to both sides, right? Yeah. So you just got to find the happy medium, because there is a happy medium.
Why did you get into coaching?
Oh, it's my passion.
It's your passion.
You know, I just helping people. Listen, there's no better reward than to have a front row seat to somebody's success and to play a like small part of that. Like, I don't know if it's the mom in me, but I just to be able to say like, wow, like I'm proud. Like I'm really proud. And I'm not that person that like, I want everybody to succeed. I'm on my own journey. And if you're going to go above and beyond where I'm at, like kudos to you. I was a part of that. And now I got a great friend. Right. And so those are things that drive me, that reward me, because money isn't rewarding to me. Right. But seeing an accomplishment, the impact, you know. So now what we're doing is, looking at, we're going to create a charity. And so I want to do financial literacy for youth. And so with the program that we're building out, we're going to have a give back component to it. Anybody who comes into the program will sponsor a youth for financial literacy. So we've designed a financial literacy program for youth. And then we're going to be offering that. We're also going to be offering that for people who just want to buy it for, you know, youth in their own networks, maybe their own children, nieces and nephews, whatever, grandkids. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of youth. I was talking to a teacher here in Hamilton, and he has a really strong desire to help the inner city kids that don't know any better, you know, and they get a check and they go and they blow it because they don't know any better. So if we're able to impact them, love to do that. So just taking that impact to another level.
That sounds great. What would the focus of it be in terms of like the financial literacy has like a broad spectrum, but like for youth, what would you focus on?
The fundamentals, but we're also creating a course for adults. I'm just saying, like,
is that going to be tax related?
There's going to be a tax component for sure, but essentially just understanding, like I wrote a book, it's called Stop Saving You're Losing Money, because we're trained in this society to save money, work, pay your bills, pay your mortgage. And so by saving, you're actually losing, because inflation eats up into that, especially today. Yeah. And so what we want to do is impact people to take ownership of their finances and don't save, invest. Look at your dollars and put them to work for you. That's what rich people do, is they put their money to work for them. If you're saving, you're constantly going to be trading time for money. You're constantly going to be working for money. And we want to impact people. Open up your minds a little bit and say, you can do this. You can take ownership of your financial situation, and you can flip the script so that you can get money to work for you. And is it going to be just a little bit in the beginning? Sure. It's only going to be a little bit. Is that okay? 100%. because that's where it starts, right?
It's a habit, right?
Yeah.
Building that kind of a financial habit that's going to get you more wealthy in the long run.
Yeah.
It is interesting that people don't know this as many people don't know this as one might think. That's like what Rich Dad Poor Dad 101 stuff, right? Like about how to stop saving money and learn to invest and how to work taxes, for example, right? And the power of real estate and taxes. I was talking to a friend of some family members who their complaint was that I work for the government. I'm making $100,000 a year. I'm paying about 30,000 in taxes every year, and I'm not saving enough money as I would want to. Like they're trying to buy a house, right? And when I was looking at them, I'm thinking how some of the first things that my mother taught me, because she was reading that Rich Dad Poor Dad stuff, instead of focusing on how to save the money you have left, which is a 70K, and like reducing your spending everywhere else, the 30K that you pay in taxes, you can actually save that far more easily if you use your money correctly than if you try to reduce what we call your life spending, right? Like what are you going to do? Save on rent, save on food, save on travel,
right,
save on life, right? But really you can actually use that tax portion. And this is just like one element, right? That I think people, if they just know it, and I remember she says to me, does everybody know this? Well, I mean, they should.
They should.
They should know this, right? How to use a system that's right in front of you, right? But I don't know why it's just people lack that component, right? So I think being able to educate them will be
It's awareness, right? A lot of people, again, our current educational system is trained us to be an employee, right?
Yeah,
Like I went through the 4 year plus I one internship in engineering, right? The goal of that is so that I can get a job. I can have a decent resume to get me the first job. And then from there is probably the ticket to the next job, right? It's never, hey, how do you actually manage your money? So I think what you're doing is great. It's actually what's currently lacking right now in the society.
And again, that's just part of the give back and wanting to make an impact. The program is all about investing in real estate, and private lending is one of the strategies that we have in the program. So all of that we're slowly building the content right now. And it's all going to be geared to, what makes sense for you based on your circumstances and your goals, right? The financial component, you can want to invest all you want, but if you don't understand simple concepts like the rule of 72 when it comes to investing, those types of things are what you need to understand to kind of take the blinders off to realize, oh, okay, I just need a little bit of knowledge and understanding so that I can know what direction to take and how to do it so that I can take the first step. But if you don't know, you just don't know, and you can't even take the first step, right?
For the sake of those listening, can you tell us what is the rule of 72?
I knew you were going to go there. Yeah, the rule of 72. So it's depending on what your return is on your investment, you divide that into 72, and that's how many years it will take to double your money, your initial capital. So having said that, and that's based on compounding interest year over year. Now, having said that, for those of you who are engineers out there and you're going to test it, it's not an absolute number. It's more or less the rule of 72. So for example, and it works perfectly at 10%. So if you take 10% and you divide that into 72, 7.2 years is when you'll be able to double your money. So having said that, though, it does shift a little bit as you move up or down that 10% mark. Again, though, it's not a perfect rule. It's a guide in order for us to realize and understand the principle behind it is to realize the power of points. So you can get 4% off your mutual fund, or you can get 8% off of a private loan, private mortgage, and you cut back your doubling by half, like you double your money twice as fast. Right. And so that's the principle behind it.
Yeah, people definitely don't follow that.
It's simple, but it's simple. Is it not simple? Like, I mean, just in that example that I gave you, obviously, if you're lending at 4%, if you're investing or lending at 4%, or you lend at 8%, it's going to take you half the time at 8% to double your money. That's just a simple concept. But when you look at the rule of 72 and you understand the power of points, then it really takes it to a whole nother level where you can actually just see exactly how many years to double your money. And then it just hits closer to home and people just understand it a little bit better.
By the way, one of the hardest thing in investing or having the right mindset for the investing is that people change their investing philosophy all the time because they see the money. Oh, okay, there's money in flip. Oh, there's money in development. Oh, there's money in bird, right? And then before they complete one strategy, they start switching over to a different one. And that's usually how you lose money. Right, because you jump over there, you're like, it didn't work as well as I thought it would be, and then you try to switch back, and then the market shifted to a different direction, and then you lose money again. Right, it happens to me in stock market all the time.
Right.
Even though I don't play with a big number, but it's literally because not having the right I guess, mindset or investing philosophy, doing exactly what I'm doing. How would you coach people like that throughout the process?
Yeah. So I have my philosophy when it comes to real estate is a massive, massive universe. Like there's a lot of different ways you can go in and a lot of different directions you can go in when you want to invest in real estate. And so the way I look at it, it's like a universe full of stars, and you just got to jump in your spaceship, and then you just got to travel that universe and then explore each star or planets if you want. And then, you land on a planet and search that, try that. So if it's flipping, I know you guys have done flips, right? I've done flips. You stay there and then see if it's in alignment, if it works for you. If it doesn't, let it go and move on, right? Until you find the planet that you want to settle on and build your settlement. And then that's where you have to sit so you can grow and scale. But I believe that people need to travel the universe because you have to see what's in alignment with you. And same with stocks. What is working for you? What is getting you excited? What are you good at? What do you like? What makes you happy about doing this? Like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And if you're good at it, it kind of feels better because you have better results, right? And so if you're going into flipping and then you're like, oh my God, it's a grind. And then you got to get quotes, you got to deal with contractors and it's just not working for you. Don't just move on and move on quickly. Don't try to fit a square peg into a round hole. You want to just keep moving forward. Try that strategy. If it doesn't work, move on. Try that one, move on. Try that one, move on. If it's not resonating with you, or if it's not in alignment with your character, who you are, and what you want to be doing, and if it's not in alignment with your goals, move on until you find that planet that you're going to build your settlement. Now, when you find that planet, then go hard. Go hard. Get your team built, get your systems in place, get them drafted, get the people in the right seat on the bus and colonize. Exactly, right? That's what you need to do. You got to bring your army so that you can set yourself up. Yep. And that's where you can scale, right? Now, if you find that strategy, here's what people don't understand. I talked to a cabinet maker years ago when I was flipping, and he was an owner, a business owner. And we just got into this great conversation that's really resonated with me. I'm like, yeah, how do you find, don't you find it boring, doing the same thing every day, you taking these orders and that's all you're doing? Why don't you expand into this and expand into that? He's got a great shop in London. He's got a massive factory. He's shipping out cabinets like no tomorrow. And he goes, no, Danielle, he goes, you know what? That's the thing. He goes, success is boring. You get really good at doing what you do and then rinse and repeat and do the same thing every day. He goes, I'm really good at what I do because I'm doing the same thing every day and I'm just getting better at it. But he keeps his finger on the pulse. So when there's shifting in labor costs, shifting in material costs, he can pivot really quickly because he knows his business in and out. And so he knows what's going on in the market, in the economy, in with his clients, because it's all the same clientele. So he really feels any movement before it really happens. So he's ahead of the gate. So he can actually, save the ship before there's even a hole in the ship. Does that make sense? Yep. And so get really good at one thing, get really good at it and do it really, really well.
No, I was going to say that you're an amazing educator, actually.
No, you hit, by the way, I picked up at least on three things three solid messages, I think, in the story that you just told. One being double down on what you're good at, right? The next one being that you need to, actually, what was it? No, hold on. I just said them. No, it's okay. It's double down on what you're good at. It's don't work against your nature, but also I think that people will enjoy what they become good at, right? Because when you do something long enough and you're able to reap a degree of satisfaction from accomplishing something, you do end up enjoying it, right? And I know I heard from somebody, this was actually one of my original coaches, told me that people do fundamentally learn to enjoy and become pleased with themselves or find some kind of fulfillment when they're good at something. But then there's a fine line between, okay, do you go against your nature, become good at something, or if it is innately against your nature, you can't become good at it, right? So
I don't think you can truly become great at it if it just doesn't go, if it goes against your nature, though, right? If it's something that, for example, house flipping is something that I like to do, the strategy that I like to implement. But the project management side, honestly, I don't enjoy that part as much, right? And that's why I find a great partner like him who enjoys doing that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I don't think I would ever become a really good active investor in the house flipping segment just because, I don't enjoy it.
It is different when you start to really be honest with yourself about where your strengths lie, what is true to your nature. Because a lot of people, and we do talk about this sometimes, people buy into this dream, what real estate means, what it means to people, or that real estate equals success. right? It's actually a very North American thing, very focused on in this part of the world anyway. And I see people wanting to get into it, but it's clearly things just don't line up with their nature that they think they want to do, right? And people get enamored with this idea of what it means to be a real estate investor. And then when I ask them the question, what do you think a real estate investor does on the daily? Or if they say, oh, I want to be a developer, what do you think a developer does on the daily? Like I met a developer and his day job was actually
HST rebates.
HST rebates.
Oh, wow.
That was his day job. And we were kind of surprised to see that, but he did some big deals. And I'm like, why do you do this? And then he's like, well, this is like the bread and butter. This is what I've always done. And he's just like, and it's pretty passive and whatever. But he says the network that I get from this and some other things is I use that to do development. But this guy is an actual developer. But a lot of people don't understand what it means to do what it is they think they want to do. And I feel like this is also where a coach, an educator, somebody who can dig into you. So it feels like it's almost like being a psychologist or something and talking to somebody, trying to figure out who they are. If you can help figure that out, then everything else I think can fall into place for the person.
Well, the only way that you can truly figure that out is if the person that I'm dealing with, if I have a client or a student coming to me, they have to be honest with themselves. And a lot of times they're not. And so if they have that mindset that, no, this is how I am. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. And I love this and I love that. And that drives me. And I know that they're not being honest with themselves. I cannot, to be honest with themselves. That comes from within. The only thing I can do is I can ask questions that'll prod and hopefully create some introspection on their part. Their initial default is to say, no, that's not me. But then when they lay their head down on their pillow that night, it's going to sink in a little bit and then they'll maybe give it some consideration. And that's all I do with people is say, look, you may disagree with this and that's 100% okay. I'll honor and respect that, but I'm asking you to consider this. Just think about it. And that's the only thing that I can do. And if the door is a crack open, then I can get in there. But if they're just closed and they don't want to and they're not ready to, there's nothing I can do or anybody. It's just I shouldn't say that I can do or nobody can do. Maybe it just takes somebody else to speak to them and resonate with them a little bit differently to maybe get that door open. But if the door is closed and they're saying it's closed to me, I just can't. They're not ready. And it comes back to the old adage, when the student is ready, the teacher shows up.
I was just about to say that.
Right?
Yeah, I was just about to say that actually.
Yeah.
Let's say if we get through the phase of change of mindset, what is next that you would discuss with the students? Is it going to be like the actionable step in different strategy that fits into what they're looking for? Like I'm just trying to understand. Like let's say the coaching program is 3 months, right? Or
so it depends.
Okay.
It depends. We have different ways of coaching. So I have accountability-based coaching. There's one-on-one coaching. There's all kinds of different strategies that we can look at depending on what your needs are and what your goals are. But essentially, it comes back to looking internally. So I don't look at somebody coming in saying, I want to do this, I want to do that. Now, if you want to learn the strategy, I'll give you the content. You can learn that online. I'm telling you, like the content is there across the board. You can piece it together if you want, give it to you in a packaged way so that it accelerates it. So it's nice and organized. But the coaching gives you the support when you're actually going through here's where people, I think, get hung up when it comes to coaching. Personally, you don't need somebody to tell you how. You need somebody to hold you accountable. And I've had so many people that say the coaching didn't work, coaching this, coaching that. We guide you, but you have to do the work. So if there's no accountability, it's just not going to work. Most people are not self-driven. And so there has to be some sort of incentive or rewarding, like you have to do the work. It doesn't you have to do the work. There's no other way around that, right? And so having coaches that'll hold you accountable and say, look, 9 times out of 10, it comes back to mindset. Why didn't you do it? How can I support you? Having hard conversations. And the only way you can have honest answers from your students is when you can create a really safe environment for them to be honest, not just with you, but with themselves.
Yeah, and then be vulnerable with you as
have
well,
to,
right?
yeah. Have to.
Yeah, so basically the training is mostly on mindset because everything else is like on your online platform where people can go in there, learn stuff. So let's say every week, the accountability code would be, let's say we sit and then I'm talking about what I have accomplished or what I didn't do. And then you will set up a new goal for me to try to accomplish or work on it. Yep. And then come back again in a week so that we can discuss that goal.
So what I'm doing right now, we're launching a new coaching platform. So I'm creating cohorts of 8 people. And then what I'm doing is everybody gets 15 minutes. So it's group coaching, small, intimate group. And again, because cohorts, the nice thing about cohorts is very intimate. And then you start bonding with people within that cohort and then you lean on each other. So it's groups of 8. We'll match up, pair up 2 each, like 2 partners. There'll be partnerships. So during the week, they can lean on each other and check in on each other. And I expect that. But for the group coaching, once a week, we get on a call. It's 2.5 hours. The 2 hours overall, everybody gets 15 minutes. And so 5 minutes, tell me what you did and tell me what your problem was and where you're stuck. And then 10 minutes, I'm going to tell you how to get unstuck, what you need to do. And these are your next steps. And so the beauty about doing it that way, whatever problems that, let's say you guys are in my cohort, you're going to talk about your problems. And we have to create a very safe environment and trust everybody, right? And so whatever issues you're having, you're going to share that. I'm going to coach you on that, but you're going to learn from that and everybody else. So then you talk about your issues and your struggles, and then I'm going to coach you through that. You're going to learn from his struggle and everybody else will as well, right? And so but I firmly believe it's when we get vulnerable where we can grow. We need that. And I also firmly believe as a human race, we're better together. There's no way around that. And so when you know you're not alone and you've got somebody to lean on and support, then it's easier to make it through a tough situation.
Yeah, no, be part of the right community.
Absolutely.
Right? That's actually the message we've been putting out to everybody before, I guess, the recession really hit. You have to be in the right group because this is where you can talk about your problems, right? Whenever you are actually going through a problem, there's no ego. In the group. Let's talk about your problem, and then someone else might thought about it or already found a solution that will, and all of a sudden that can essentially benefit to the rest of the group, right? If we do that over and over again, all of the problem becomes very solvable.
You really got me thinking about that, actually. The part of like, if you can grow when you become vulnerable, and I see how that can be very beneficial to a lot of people because I think that's where people are stuck, right? If you can't be vulnerable, when you're vulnerable, you can also look at yourself in the mirror and see things that you would have not otherwise realized. So the environment, the coach, the people are very important to facilitate this. But I know there's a lot of people on social media. We're talking about coaches teaching different things, whether some of them are bad or good, different philosophies, whatever. But some people talk about not showing weakness because it's like, listen, like for example, if I had to say something cheesy that was going to be on social media, I would say, listen, if you're in the real estate game, you got to understand there's a bunch of sharks there. And if they smell blood, they're going to eat you alive. If you show vulnerability, they're going to find you and they're going to gobble you up. You don't want to be gobbled up. So you need to be a shark, right? And it's just like, it sounds right, but is it right? And
here's what I'll tell you about that. It works for some people.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I just honor and respect people's choices, and I honor and respect other tribes. There's other communities that are not in alignment with me and my community and the people that I attract. I'm okay with that because they have their own community. They just don't jive with mine. It would be a really boring place if we were all the same, right?
That's true.
So if we believe that taking a sense of vulnerability and that's where we grow, we believe that. I know the 3 of us in this room, we believe that. But there are some people who are not comfortable with that. They'll never do that. And that's okay. They have their own tribe. So let them have that message. They're going to attract their tribe. They're going to attract the people that resonate with that message.
Yeah.
Right? And that's okay. They're going to grow differently than we do. And I may not agree with how they grow and the things and the principles that they live by. That's okay. That's their tribe. It's not mine. Has nothing to do with me. And I'm just too busy to even care about trying to say, I'm going to help them because you know what? It's okay. I don't need to. I'm going to help those that want to be helped within my own community. And I'll have way more impact and self-satisfaction for that because I'll be successful as opposed to, and believe me, I tried doing this before, where you're trying to help somebody open to learning the way I teach. It has to work for both people on both sides. Otherwise, you're just trying to listen. And this is true for any relationship, not just a coaching relationship. It's true for a mom and a daughter relationship. Ask me how I know. It's true for two spouses, right? It's true for 2 siblings, cousins. If one person is trying to change the other and you're speaking a different language, it doesn't work. All you're doing is damaging the relationship. Spend your time rewarding where you're getting results. Why would you try to spend your time helping somebody who doesn't share your message and doesn't share your beliefs? Because then you just end up damaging that relationship. So honor them, respect them, and have boundaries if you need around yourself because you have different principles you live by, right?
Yeah.
And
No, that's
when you
awesome.
live like that, then it's a really happy place
Yeah.
because you're not constantly trying to like, you should do this and you should do that. And like, it's just not a great place to live when you're constantly
Applying pressure.
like just
Yeah.
judging everybody, right?
Yeah.
So don't judge. Say it's all right. It's their life. They have a right to choose how they want to live it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't have to like it, but I do have to accept it.
Well, I mean, there is a point to leading by example, and that's why people do it sometimes, right? Because people subscribe to philosophies of people that they resonate with, which is why I think I like a lot of the stuff that you're posting on your social media, because these are sort of reflective of your philosophies, your principles, your values, and things that you believe in that, cause the byproduct of success, which, is shown with those things that you do. So I think definitely everybody has to choose.
But again, success is a subjective word. Donald Trump is successful. A lot of people would say. Personally, like I don't know that I know that if I found success the way Donald Trump has built his success, I wouldn't be happy and I wouldn't sleep well at night. That's just me though. If I were to look at that, do I think he's successful living the way he is? I don't think there's inner peace. I don't think he's grounded. I don't know that. I could be wrong. But I know for myself, I wouldn't be content or happy or feel good in my own skin if I was in his shoes. And so, success is subjective. What's success? But it works for him. He's not my tribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's okay. I don't have to like it, but I do have to accept it. And then once I realize, okay, that's just not somebody that I have boundaries. People like that do not enter my circle. They don't, because I don't allow them to. I'm like, unless they're family. I don't need that in my life because it just creates some friction that I don't need. And so I just avoid all of that. Don't try to change it.
Yeah. How do you balance between keeping your community safe and comfortable versus pushing the limit? Right, because usually I like one of the posts that you post recently about build, hustle, and earn.
Mm-hmm.
Right, go get it, go get it yourself. Right, like if you truly want it, go get it. But that usually requires a bit of a resistance, right? Because people need to step out of their comfort zone.
Absolutely, that's where you grow. Typically, when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone is when you're getting vulnerable. So I push the envelope for being vulnerable and honest with yourself. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, I call crap out, right? And I tell it how it is. I don't hold back. There's good and bad in everything. One of the things that I really get irritated at is when my other fellow speakers come up on stage and they're talking about how great something is, but they're not sharing the flip side of the story. There's always two sides of it. And so I want to make sure that when I'm sharing a strategy, I am sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly so that you can go into that strategy with your eyes wide open and make an informed decision.
Yeah.
Right? And so that is critical. You got to keep it real.
Yeah. That's why we talk about also the failed project that we did in our flipping business, right? Like some of the projects that we failed miserably, right, in the very beginning because the partnership structure wasn't done correctly. And I think people do appreciate that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, people at a certain level, but it's kind of like there is a funnel of what attracts people. The thing that I always struggle with is feeling the need, make things sound right because people resonate with it. People, it's like the Rule 72, for example. It's like people. If I went and I said, this rule, of 72, I can show you how to like completely bypass that, and you can, double your money in just 6 months or a year. That will more people will probably go towards that. And I understand what you're saying about tribe. Those are the wrong people, right? And that's probably very short-term gains. That's the people who are selling those like $500 become a millionaire programs kind of thing, right? And it's people should know that it's scammy, right? But they don't. So where was I going with this? That's the point.
I don't know.
The point. I think the point that you were going with this was that you want to make sure that the messaging attracts the people because they want to hear that. But I would challenge that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing but there's a fine line in terms. Okay, most people are full of excuses. Everybody has a million and one reasons why they can't do something, why they shouldn't do something. Go for it.
You can have an excuse or you can have results.
Yeah.
You can't have both.
Ooh.
Okay, go.
No, but I agree. But people don't have this distinction, right? Sometimes people play what they call devil's advocate, and they say, I'm just poking holes in the plan just to make sure that you've thought about everything. But really, they're pessimistic, and they're just like, they're people who always find the reasons why not to do something very often, right? There's objectively figuring out how to protect yourself from the big problems. Those are things you need to think about. But then when you start getting into all the little problems along the way that may never actually happen, then you're just kind of like planning indefinitely against all the things that could go wrong when really you should just be banking on yourself that when those problems happen, you can figure it out. But that's the thing that I always struggle with is at what point do you tell people these are all the things that can go wrong, but you just have to narrow into this window of like, this is what you need to accomplish and this is what can go right. And this is what you need to focus on because people I think are innately self-defeating.
I would take a much different approach.
Go for it. Yeah. That's what I want to hear.
That's all mindset.
Okay. Yeah, true.
Right? It's all mindset. Again, when you honor that person and the concerns that they have, as opposed to looking at it and saying, well, those are just excuses. Yeah, they could happen, but probably not. One of my coaches had said to me, worst case scenario, the best case scenario, and the most likely scenario. And that's one way to put things into a more realistic perspective. But ultimately, the people that are doing that, they're fearful. That's a mindset thing. Mm-hmm. They're fearful. They lack confidence because they don't have the knowledge. Like one of the reasons why I spend so much time educating people is because they can't take action without knowledge. And the reason why that is because the knowledge gives them the confidence to be able to take that step. And they're lacking both. And so fear shows up. And then when you pair that with not having the ability or the awareness to understand what is happening psychologically, fear shows up. False evidence appearing real. Is it false? You have to question that. The problem is that fear shows up and people just accept it. This could go wrong, that could go wrong. They just accept it. They don't challenge it. And so you have to challenge it. So fear shows up when there is potential harm to yourself, whether perceived or real. And it's a self-preservation mechanism that happens in our minds to protect us from harm. Again, when you come back to honoring and respecting that, hey, thanks for showing up, fear. Thanks for letting me know that this could potentially happen. Now I can make an informed decision. Thank you. Let me take that into consideration and see how that weighs in my decision. But when you honor fear showing up to protect you, and then you say, thanks for showing up. Now let me take a look at it and see whether or not it's perceived or real. Let me assess really where's the risk as opposed to our default, which is just to accept it. So when that shows up for me, we have this conversation, right? I go, okay, let's have this conversation. What happens if this happens? What does that look like for you? What if this really does happen?
And you find it's usually not measurable.
Well, it's coming back to challenging the mindset and having the person that you're talking to look at things a little bit differently and say, look, what is the worst case scenario? And then how would you handle that? Can you manage that? Mm-hmm. What's the best case scenario? What's the most likely scenario? Because that's where it's going to fall.
As you go through this type of exercise, your pain tolerance start increasing.
100%.
And that's where you can start taking more and more calculated risks.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so what happens, like exercising a muscle, I hate hearing that. I always say it though. When you're exercising that muscle, you got to take those small steps. Say, okay, maybe this one is too big and scary for you because you're not comfortable with the worst case scenario. It's not something that you could deal with. But what about this one? Let's do this one. And then when you take that step and you realize your world didn't fall apart, it's like, oh, okay. Now that's how you build confidence. That's how you start showing up and saying, okay, I got this because I've taken these risks. You get to take more and more and more risks. You don't go from not taking any risk, taking on high risk. You don't.
That's called gamble.
It's called gambling. Yes, it's called gambling. Exactly. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you want to just encourage some steps moving forward, find where that works. But again, challenge the mindset a little bit. I'm really big on that. Really big on that.
Awesome.
You obviously have a solid angle on how to teach people. There's a lot of people I think who will go and work with other people because they want to learn, and they might just be another real estate investor. They might be somebody who's in the field and think I'm going to learn from them, but not really considering that somebody might be good at what they do, but they might not know how to teach. And this is why I think it's important that somebody who's going to teach you knows how to teach you, right? You clearly know how to identify pain points, identify learning blocks, learning hurdles that people have to overcome. And you've hired coaches of your own. So you have perspective here. So let's talk a little bit about some of the coaches that you've had that you felt were just bad or wrong or just they were not good for the student.
I have to go back. Sorry, I'm digging deep here, guys. The worst coaches that I've personally had talk about themselves. So if you're interviewing a potential coach and all they do is talk about themselves because they're just a salesperson, they're just talking about themselves. They like hearing their voice. They like talking about their own accomplishments. There's a lot of ego. I think a really great coach has very little ego or can cap it. They can maintain that. And so, because it's not about you, or it's not about them, it's about you. It should be about you. It doesn't make any sense. But what happens is that the student involved in that story, and they're like, oh yeah, they've done a lot. They've done this, they've done that. And they know, okay, yeah, they're great because they're telling you they're great, but they're not focused on you. They should be focused on you. And typically, like, people will be asking me, I talk very little about what I do. And then people have to actually dig into me and ask me questions like, well, what about you? Like, what do you know? And then I'll share, because it's not about me. That's not where I start. And so that's probably number one. I've gotten on calls where coaches are talking, and again, they just keep coming back to themselves, talking about them. Like, that's probably the worst.
That's like a red flag.
Yeah, to me, it's a huge red flag, because they're not focused on you. They're not getting into you. You need a coach as well. And one of the reasons why probably I've felt that too is because these coaches probably had in common that they weren't really compassionate. I'm an empath. I have to be very protective of myself when I'm dealing with my students, because if they start getting really emotional, I get in there with them and I have to block that.
Boundaries.
There has to be boundaries, yeah, because I just get drained from it. But every now and then I get sucked into that, which just makes me human. But if you have a coach that isn't at least compassionate and able to identify with your pain, how are they going to be able to work through that? Because they don't truly understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
So you need a coach that is willing to feel what you're feeling. A lot of coaches don't do, because I'll tell you, it's hard. It's draining mentally and emotionally. And so, like, if I have coaching clients and I'm spending like 3 hours back to back to back, and I'm talking, I have to preserve my energy, and I have to have boundaries around that. And so it's really hard as a coach to be able to manage that. And even when I'm talking at the front of the stage and then I get off stage and people are coming to me, I have to preserve my own energy so that I can perform and be there for other people as well. Because one person can just take it all out of me in 20 minutes. And that's really how it can happen. But if you have a coach that's completely not compassionate, they're not relating to you and they're not identifying.
How do you filter that?
Filter in what way? Like, filter what I connect with and what I don't?
Let's say if I'm a student looking for compassion.
Oh, how does a student filter and find that?
Yeah.
Well, you got to see how, when you're explaining your situation, typically, and this is the issue, right? People, it's just like going for a therapist. Nobody looks for a therapist until they're really in a bad space, right?
Yep.
And so when you have people coming and they're saying, I'm looking for a coach, there's some pain there, right? So the coach should be asking questions like, what are you going through? What do you need right now? And asking those questions. If you give them a little bit of information and then they're like, oh yeah, I've been through that. I've done this. I've done that. It's very cold, right?
Yeah.
I like somebody who's going to say, yeah, I've been through that. I know how to work through that. So right now you're feeling this, you're feeling that. And then give something tangible, right? That's the other thing. When you have coaches that give you nothing in the initial conversation, you should be getting something out of that conversation. And some coaches, and you spoke to this with me, Andrew, where some coaches are like, they're all about the money. So some coaches are like, I'm not going to give away anything until this person has signed up. Right? So that is an integrity thing for me. That's an integrity test. I don't have to be paid in order for me to help you in that first conversation.
I like that. All of our coaches that we sign up for is literally because we got a lot of information prior to we signed up, because they are genuinely wanting to help from the very beginning.
That's right.
Yeah. So which coaching programs did you find that it was like really good? Because I know like the Alfonso's one, Seth Ferguson is running another conference. Like we'll be going to that as well.
I'm speaking at that.
I saw that you're speaking on that. So like, are there any like that's like top 3 conferences or like a coaching programs like that you were like, okay, it's my type of people?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm part of Synergy Mastermind.
Okay.
Multifamily conference all day long.
Yep.
Not just because I'm speaking there, but I went to the first one last year, and it's all my people that are there, my tribe, very, very much my tribe. So if you're like looking for my tribe of people, those definitely. Fortune Builders in the States is where I started, and credit everything that I've done to them. The culture they created, it's that same culture that I'm attracted to, right? And so the speaker that was on the 3-day event, that was the culture. Now, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I've been to 2 of their events and only went the second time to validate that it wasn't just the speaker I resonated with, but it was actually the culture. And both times I was like, nope, not my tribe. Right. And so I think depending on, if you can test the waters a little bit, and this is what I like about Alfonso's, I can't talk about Alfonso Cuadra's Wealth Genius because I haven't been to one of his events.
I see.
But I know Alfonso personally. I was just on stage with him the 10th, 2 Fridays ago.
With Sharon, right?
Yeah, with CRUA, the Canadian Real Estate Women's Association. Yeah. Yep. So Sharon Catano and Ala Lady Gina are the 2 organizers of CRUA. And so Ala invited me to speak. Alfonso was there. And I know Alfonso from just in our network, we've traveled around, but I've never been to one of his events. However, having said that, I know some people that are in his group and I love those people. So I would say it's probably my kind of space. Right.
Awesome.
So those, at the level of where we are now, follow me on social media, see where I'm going. If you want to, if you feel you resonate with me and you want to travel in my circles, like I'm very open. That's the other thing. When you're looking for coaches, again, it depends on who you're looking for, but I love transparency. So find a coach who's willing to talk about anything. If they're saying, oh, yeah, well, we don't talk about that, or, that's personal business, or no, I don't know. For me, I need somebody who's open because
transparency is important.
Well, that openness also shows that they're able to be vulnerable, that there's no ego, that they're honest. There's integrity. It just shows more than just their knowledge. So for me, when I interview anybody, whether it's a partner or anybody, it comes down to core values always. That is the most critical thing for me. Has to be in alignment.
What's next for you?
Well, that's one. Yeah. So strategic success. We're relaunching, putting all our content online. It's going to be amazing. All I can tell you is it's going to take me a lot of time because we're putting up a lot of content. So we're starting with the multifamily strategy, and we're doing the lending strategy. I've got an RTO expert. So I am building an ecosystem. I can't do this myself. And I'm a community type person. I believe in abundance and growing things together we're better. And so with every strategy that I'm implementing and putting into the program, we're going to have experts in those strategies in order to best facilitate and help our students. The beautiful part about our strategy is just a sexy word for course. What I'm doing that's different than anybody else is having reverse engineering real estate coming into the program. So you get to be with me, figure out the right strategies to set yourself up for success for you based on your situation. And then we'll narrow down the top 2 strategies, go learn those strategies, start with one. The content will be online. Start with one. If it's not resonating, ditch it, go to the second one. Learn that strategy. We'll help you through that. And then through some group coaching, because I'm a firm believer group coaching is better than one-on-one. There's a time for each. One-on-one, there's a time for that. But for the most part, group coaching, I feel is better. Some people like it one-on-one, and that's okay. I'll honor that too. And we do that. But at the end of the day, there is power in numbers always. So learn the strategy. We'll have weekly group coaching. So if you have any questions as you're learning, we're also going to be offering, I don't know exactly because we're just building it out right now. I don't know what the schedule is going to be like, but at least twice a year, I want each strategy to be done in person. So it's going to be done live, hybrid, virtual, and in person, so that if somebody's on the other side of the country, they don't necessarily have to spend the money to come and be there in person. So we'll live stream it. And then that way you can do an intensive as well. Some people learn online. They're okay with that and digesting 60, 90 minutes a week. Some people want to do a weekend intensive and they want to do it in person. That's me. I'm that person. Yeah. I don't like the online stuff. So that way we can target and give you the content that you need the way you want it. And then the difference that we have is that we have supporting modules, supporting content. So the strategies tell you what to do, not necessarily how. And I think that's the gap. And we're going to fill that gap. Understanding an APS. What's an APS, you said? Oh, an agreement of purchase and sale. Well, here, let's go through. These are all the points. This is what it covers. This is what this clause means. This is how this clause protects you. This is how this clause will protect the other side. This is what this means. And so then we get to page 7 of the agreement of purchase and sale. And then we have the Schedule A. And then, what clauses do I need to put in there? Depending on what strategy you are, we'll give you some guidance as far as if you're doing multifamily, these are the clauses you should have in there. Make sure you put this in there or that. If you're doing a flip, right? If you want a wholesale, there's clauses that are specific to that. So when you're putting something under contract and you've never done it before, or maybe it's in a strategy you've never done before, like multifamily, listen to the module, get some knowledge so that you can take that and go talk to your realtor in the moment that you're doing it, not learn all of this. And then by the time you start implementing, you've forgotten all of that. So we'll have that. Same with private lending. If you're raising capital, there's a private lending module on just that. And what's the difference between a JV and a shareholder agreement? You're talking together and you want to partner together. Well, should you do a business or should it be a JV? Well, I don't know the difference, right?
This is a lot of information.
Watch the module so that you can get some information to better understand it while you're doing it. So we'll give you the how, and we can't give you everything because I'm still learning. I don't know everything. We'll give you so much that you'll have the confidence to be able to move forward. Coming back to what we talked about, you need confidence in order to implement.
Knowledge gives you that kind of confidence, and confidence needs to lead to an action.
That's right.
So that it produces a result.
That's right.